episode 3 of KMV Travel, the podcast. My name is Kelly, and I am here with my official co host, Pat. Pat has taken the leap. He has committed to being the co host and not just a guest that comes on every week. So, Pat, thanks for coming back and joining officially.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for agreeing to lower the overall quality of the podcast and have me as a regular member.
I disagree, but we talked about it and we were like, okay, what's our roles in this? And Pat was like, I feel like I'm the humor. So he's going to be the fun one. And I hopefully will bring the information. So, but today it's going to be a little bit different, right?
That's right. Today we're going to talk about different roller coasters at different theme parks. And what we're going to cover is our favorite roller coasters at each of the big theme parks in Florida. So we're going to do it a little different. We're not going to do like all of the sub parks and our favorite in each one. Some of those become really monotonous because there's only one roller coaster in each of the sub parks. So like, for example, we won't be saying what is our favorite at Animal Kingdom in Disney World. Instead, we'll just clump all of the Disney ones together and say, what is our favorite at Disney World?
But you say our favorite, and I feel like we're not going for our favorite. We're really going for what rates the highest across 3 different categories that we've set up. So when we talked about doing this, we were like, okay, we don't want to just say what our favorite is. We want to look at what the overall thrill is, theming, and then bare bones. Like if you took off everything other than the track, what would rate the highest? So that's what we're going to be looking at across all the different roller coasters at the parks that are in Florida. So that's going to be Walt Disney World, Universal, SeaWorld, and Busch Gardens in Tampa. Did I miss anything?
Nope, that's it. And I think it'll be interesting to see how we rate some of these because I know that theming means a lot more to you. I'm totally happy to go on a roller coaster that is just called Roller Coaster X and enjoy the ride. So it'll be interesting to see how we rate these a little bit differently. And we have not seen each other's ratings yet. So we'll get to react to that in real time.
Yeah, so that's a good point too. Let's talk a little bit about like our background. Let's give the before we go into what our thoughts are on things. I think this will paint a good picture. So what's like your love of roller coasters? Like what's your favorite thing about a roller coaster?
And there's a lot. That's hard to answer. That's like which kid's your favorite? I consider myself a roller coaster enthusiast. I've been on almost 150 different roller coasters, so I do like make it a point to travel to places to ride different roller coasters. I tend to like high intensity roller coasters and where you feel like negative G-force, where you're like ejected out of your seat, kind of. So I really like a more thrilling roller coaster than something that's more tame and well themed.
Yeah, and I'm the opposite end of the spectrum. I will probably ride everything once, but I am definitely going to go back to the ones that are like highly themed versus one that's just kind of like a roller coaster. Like we grew up in New Jersey, so we were right by Six Flags Great Adventure. And to me, I was like, those are roller coasters. And then, like, we would go to Disney and I was like, these are like my rides because they're so themed and everything. But for you, you're like, I just want the roller coaster. Like the theming is not important.
Yeah, I like the different track layouts, and I'm kind of a nerd about that kind of stuff. So I really do enjoy, yeah, just a bare bones roller coaster sounds great to me. Um, and I probably take into a little bit more of consideration the different elements on the track and what type of like there's inversions, what kind of inversions they are, and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, awesome. So let's jump into it. I'm gonna let you take the lead on this one because this is definitely more your thing than mine. So you let me know where you want to start.
Sure. I think first we can do probably the easiest one to get through, in my opinion, and that'll be Disney World. Um, don't know why I said Disney World like that. Disney World. You can go ahead and go first and tell me what your highest rated roller coaster here is.
I was hoping you were going to go first for this one.
I can if you'd like me to.
No, I can walk you through my thought process.
Okay.
So I looked at the roller coasters and I looked at like higher intensity roller coasters. So I didn't include like a barnstormer or like mine train in Magic Kingdom. I tried to look at like Everest, Guardians, Tron, and Rock and Roller Coaster. And then I was looking at overall thrill. I think overall thrill, what is going to win it is Guardians for me because of the fact of like the launch is so good, and then the spinning and everything like that. I think that that is overall thrill, great. Tron's great for the launch, but then you kind of lose me after that. Then I think if you take it down to just like the track, I would say Rock and Roller Coaster actually, which is probably you're probably gonna roll your eyes at me, but I think that when you just take it down to the pure track, Rock and Roller Coaster is a really good ride. Um, and then when I look at theming, I think Everest wins it for me, hands down. So when I put everything together, I'm going with Everest.
Okay. That is the same one that I have picked as my favorite as well, or my top rated. I got to it a very different way. I actually think that Everest is the most thrilling attraction in Disney World. Um, you know, going backwards, the actual like main drop hill in Everest, probably the most intense thing at Disney World, in my opinion, from a roller coaster perspective, at least.
From
Um,
like a G-force perspective, is that what
yeah, I
you're
mean
thinking?
it's just a
Okay.
good hill, and then you come into the helix at the end of it, and it's just I like the way that that feels, and it rides really nice, knowing that that's like kind of an older roller coaster at this point. Everest opened in
Yeah.
2006,
Hmm.
almost 20 years old already, and it still rides pretty smooth. That's definitely a plus for me. I think that in terms of thrill, I kind of disagree with you on Guardians. I don't think that that is as thrilling as much as it is just unique. Um, I feel that's a very unique ride where you're kind of spinning with it a little bit. Um, so that's just I think that that's probably more like of a fun ride to me than really thrilling. But yeah, for me, this was hands down, I think, across all the categories, Everest wins.
So did Rock and Roller Coaster or Tron even like come into your mind when you were talking about this?
Tron did something that we didn't like specifically talk about, but ride duration is also really important to me as part of like the technical part of the ride. And Tron is just too short for me to put it too
Yeah.
highly on the list. I agree. I like the launch. I do even like some of the maneuvers that happen inside when you after you go like back into the indoor part of the ride.
Hmm.
It's just too short, and I wish if that was like another 30 or 40 seconds, I think that would be a really spectacular ride. But 50-second ride on a roller coaster is not going to get into my top numbers of roller coasters.
Yeah, it's like Tron has a lot of really good elements from other rides that I would say. Like I feel like when you go inside, it's like Rock and Roller Coaster, which is like what I love about Rock and Roller Coaster. And then you have that launch, which is great with, from Guardians. But yeah, I agree. If it was longer, it would probably take the prize for me.
Yeah.
Um, are there any other roller coasters in Walt Disney World that kind of you toyed with the idea of it being your
See
number
what you did
one?
there, toyed. There is Slinky Dog, which was not close, but I do love that ride. It's a pretty fun ride. It's more of a family roller coaster than like a traditional roller coaster, but definitely a fun ride. Um, I didn't really talk about Rock and Roller Coaster at all. I think that is just very dated at this point, and I feel like you go on that and you kind of are shaking the whole time, and it's really showing its age a lot. So I can't really put it up there. Space Mountain deserves to be at least part of the conversation, but knowing how much better other versions of Space Mountain are, it feels more like a wild mouse than a roller coaster. So probably shouldn't be part of the conversation of the best, but definitely noteworthy.
Yeah, and then we have Big Thunder, and that one, I think Big Thunder is kind of like I don't know, it's like such a good family coaster,
Yeah,
because
that's
it's
a
like
really
your
good,
first like
yeah, first
real one.
intro.
Yeah,
Yeah, first intro
yeah,
into roller coasters is what that is. It's
yeah.
really good for what it is.
So I'm surprised. I did not think we were going to agree on our first uh go around here, but nice work. You had the right answer. So
Cool. So let's move over just a few miles down the road to Universal. Um, so again, there's two parks at Universal, and we're grouping everything together as one. So why don't you kick us off here on Universal?
Yeah. So I think painting the picture of Universal versus what we just talked about at Walt Disney World, very different attractions here. So um, this was a little bit more difficult for me. I like listed everything out and I tried to break it down of like, okay, what would I say is the top, thrill and whatever it may be. So I'll share my process again. Um, so I think for track alone, like bare bones, we get down to that, it's Velocicoaster, just because I do think it's a really cool track. As much as like I don't know how people ride that multiple times in a day, like Godspeed, I'm not doing that, but it is a really cool track. I hate the part where you flip over and you're over the water. I can't.
That is my
Um,
favorite element of that ride.
oh God, this is why you go on that ride and I sit in the Jurassic Park, like the dino area there. I can't think of the word, the Institute with a beer and I watch a deer on there. Um, but okay, so that I would say that's track. And then overall thrill, I feel like there's a few that kind of get into this for me. So Hagrid's I think has that one kind of like drop in the middle where you go to the other level of the track.
Hmm.
Um, so I really do enjoy that. But I also think the Mummy has like thrill because you aren't expecting it because you can't see the track since it's inside.
Right.
So it's like you go in and you're just kind of like, okay. And then like it's got some incredible moves and everything. Like it's a really fun ride. Um, and then Rip Ride Rocket, I have never ridden and will never ride.
Not missing much.
So yeah, that whole like where they're stopped and they're like that, I'm not doing that. So that one's not coming into play for me. And the Hulk doesn't come into play for me either, just because I don't think it doesn't stand out enough.
Hmm.
Um, in comparison to other rides. So I'm down to like Velocicoaster, Hagrid's, and the Mummy with this. Um, and for theming, I think the Mummy takes it away. I know they tried with Hagrid's. I'll give them that. Velocicoaster, like if I was looking at queues and I was going to say what is like the best theming within a queue, like maybe Velocicoaster would come into play there. But like the the roller coaster itself is just, you go out and that's it. Which I get it. That's like for your people, you love that. For me, not so much. Um, so when I look at the all three overall, I'm going to say it's the Mummy for me is number one at Universal.
Nice. Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of what you said. Most that just the track alone on Velocicoaster. I mean, for me, that's like a top five roller coaster in the world. So that's like really up there for me, and obviously is going to be like my top rated roller coaster at Universal. I think the theming one that you might have missed that I think is the best theming in the park is actually the Escape from Gringotts queue and going through there. Um,
Oh,
that
I didn't even
is
think about that as a roller coaster.
Yeah, I mean I guess technically it is a roller coaster, but kind of similar to the way the Mummy is, except it's a little
Yeah,
I think the ride itself is a little worse, but the theming is amazing. I mean, going through the bank in there is
for the queue,
unreal.
yes,
Yeah.
agreed. But we'll have to do like just queue. What's our favorite line that you wait in?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, I did not think of Escape from Green Dots at all because I feel like you're stopped for too long throughout that
Yeah,
ride.
they meshed roller coasters with screens and it didn't work perfectly, I don't think.
Yeah.
Um, but I do think from a track standpoint too, one that stands out to me is the Incredible Hulk. It's a very violent ride, and I don't think that a lot of people like doing it. But you do get shot out of the lift hill, like that is a launched roller coaster, and you do a flip at the top of the hill, which is just something that is very unique and gets a lot of people. A lot of people do end up blacking out at that point, but definitely
Wow,
intense
you
and
sold
fun.
me.
Yeah. RIP Rip Ride Rocket, they have announced that they're going to be removing Rip Ride Rocket at some point. I think long
Is it
overdue.
official?
I believe I saw something official. So if it's not fully official, it's leaked official. But there, I mean,
I
that
don't think it's
ride,
official, but I think it's coming down the line.
yeah, that I mean that ride needs to go. It's um very, very rough. As you mentioned, people get stuck on the lift hill, which is a 90-degree angle up. So you kind of get stuck in a laying position. And they do need to have the fire department come and get you out of that because there's no way to get you out otherwise. They need a bucket truck. So yeah, I think you're spot on to like theming wise. Also, the Mummy was really high up there for me, but um, overall, Velocicoaster is my pick here. And that was my gripe uh, with Hagrid's. I know a lot of people love the theming of Hagrid's, and I think that that's one of the most confused stories I've ever been on in an attraction. Um, Mr. Weasley is for some reason involved. There's a pre-show that never runs. Um,
You have a lot of issues with Hagrid's.
Yeah, I don't understand why they like decided to make it the story they did when they could have very easily made that the like when Harry leaves the Dursleys' house, like even with the elements
Yeah.
of the roller coaster, when you hit the stall hill where you start going backwards, that could have been Hagrid getting stunned, and there was just a lot of elements that they could have made so much cooler without changing the track at all if the story made more sense.
Yeah. I feel like we could definitely do a whole episode on the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. And maybe we'll have to do that and really dive into it. But um yeah, I think that like when you look at it very kind of like base level, Hagrid's has really good theming, but then when you think about like the number of elements of theming that are in the Mummy versus Hagrid's, and again, like very different attraction, one's outdoor, one's indoor. Um, but yeah, I think that's where it kind of just falls a little bit short. I mean, like the animatronic of Hagrid is awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah,
um,
well, also of note, that's a ride that there's hardly any uptime. That is a ride that is constantly down for maintenance because something's not working. They have a couple different switch tracks that need to be perfectly aligned in order to have the ride go. So when you were referencing the part where the track drops down to the lower level, that very often doesn't perfectly align, so they can't continue the ride and they have to shut it down. So if you do go to Universal Studios in Orlando, you will notice that very frequently Hagrid's is not operating because there's some issue with the track. And that's been just a theme of that roller coaster since they put it in. It's never been a high uptime ride.
mm, yeah, and that one we should mention is in Islands of Adventure. So
Right.
um, they basically have it split up pretty well. There's a good handful in each. Um, but we should definitely do something about the Wizarding World of Harry Potter because I feel like there's a lot that we could talk about there.
Yeah.
Um,
And also
awesome.
excited to add the rides from Epic Universe to this list too. So we'll have to update it once Epic Universe opens.
Yeah, I think we'll have to do that. We'll also probably need to talk about like what is the best overall. Just because I think, we're going to go into two other parks with Busch Gardens and SeaWorld, both which are for like roller coaster people, big contenders for best roller coaster. So it will be interesting to see what Universal does with Epic Universe.
Mhm. Yep.
Awesome.
Ready to move on to our third park, which is SeaWorld. SeaWorld in Orlando.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you do this one first, because I'll preface this too with SeaWorld is your favorite park. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure.
it's
Like,
it's very
yeah.
close to our house, and I think that there's a couple really good roller coasters there. They're not, the best in the world, but being 25 minutes away from our house, it's nice to go there. And the lines are never too crazy, so you can do a couple roller coasters pretty quickly. Um, so with that, I will get into it. I think that one thing you'll notice in the two parks that are left is that theming is not going to be such an important factor. Um, Especially in SeaWorld, they're like kind of like fish or aquatic themed rides, but there's really nothing themed other than the name of the rides. So I think mostly what we're going to be looking at is track design and thrill. And for both of those, my pick is going to be Mako, which is one of their larger roller coasters. They have a couple that are a little bit on the small side. Um, but this is just a hyper coaster that um, has a lot of airtime, a lot of negative Gs, and really cool elements on it. Like there's the track is basically in an L shape where when you come up the second hill, you come up the top hat and you actually spin sideways and go like you're a Mako swimming and turning in the air. Um, so that is my favorite. Uh, but a close second was Pipeline, the new roller coaster that they put in last year. This is like they call it a surf coaster, but it's like a standing roller coaster, similar to some of the other ones. But this one, the ride mechanism is much, much better, where it doesn't feel like it locks you into place and digs into your body. This one, there's a
That's
lot
nice.
of give. Yeah, well, the first generation of these was not very pleasant to ride. But this one has a lot of give to it, and when you do hit some hills, you actually like your seat moves up and your feet aren't on the ground. So it's a really interesting sensation. But that ride is very short, is very similar to Tron. I think that the ride time is about 48 seconds. So not long enough to be a contender on my top list.
So I remember you telling me that SeaWorld is working with a company to basically show a lot of like new roller coasters. Was that what it was with Pipeline?
Yeah, so they work with B&M, uh, which is one of the big roller coaster manufacturers. Um, they have some sort of agreement with them where they're just doing like prototype roller coasters with SeaWorld and the portfolio of SeaWorld companies, which includes Busch Gardens. Um, so yeah, this was a roller coaster that they debuted and they talked about it a lot at the theme park conventions that happen in Orlando. And it was a strategic move for them because they can say, oh, if you're interested in buying a ride of this type, go to SeaWorld and ride it, or go to Busch Gardens, which is just down in Tampa, and you can ride it and see how it is. Um, so yeah, they're working really closely with B&M to produce higher quality roller coasters.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, because it's I mean they have another roller coaster that is pretty much complete, right? Penguin Trek.
Yeah.
Um we don't have a date for it yet, but that's also going to be a little bit different, something new. Um
Yeah,
so that should be cool to see.
that one's more of a family coaster, and it should be a lot of fun. It's a multi-launch coaster. I believe there's 4 launches in the ride, so definitely something I'm looking forward to trying out. As of recording, they have not announced something, but I expect the date to be out within a few days.
Yeah, Universal just made their announcement for their summer kind of what we can look forward to with summer experiences with a new DreamWorks land, a new parade. They're going to have a new nighttime show, a new Hogwarts show. So a lot going on there. Disney has a lot going on. And this is also the 60th anniversary of SeaWorld. So I would expect, like you're saying, they're going to get something out soon. So hopefully, when we do our recap of this after Epic Universe, then we can talk about Penguin Trek too.
Yeah, and SeaWorld posted 3 hours ago to that they're going to be posting something soon about Penguin Trek. So
Okay, there you
yeah,
go. Awesome. So I will say with mine, it was very difficult because I definitely pick based on theme. Like that is the overall for me is always going to be theming. So with SeaWorld, it was hard to kind of decide like which one I would go with. Um, so I know everybody that I speak with always loves Mako the most. I did not enjoy Mako because of the amount of like the intensity of it. So I guess for thrill, I would have to give it to Mako. Um, it's hard for me to make it like to say what's going to be best for track because like I'm like I don't really know those as well. I really enjoy Icebreaker because of that the first part where you do the launch kind of like backwards, and then you go down and then you go back up. I think that's cool. It's just like a different element. Um, theme, if I was looking at theming, it would probably be Manta, just because you walk through the aquarium as you're entering the or as you're in the queue. So that's kind of neat, but that's the queue. Again, it's not the attraction itself. I mean, Manta's cool because it's a hanging, is that the right term? Is a hanging roller
S-
coaster?
So that's a flying roller coaster. That's
Okay.
you get in the seat and it's upright and then it actually folds up into the track, which is above you, and your head is in the front and you're actually going like a stingray.
Yeah, which is cool. But the first time and the only time that I've done it, we sat in the front row and I was like, oh, this is going to be totally fine. Like we sit in the front row and it was terrifying because you're like, I was like, I need to like see people's feet or something going on. But so that was cool. I did honestly like, I like the fact that it was a flying roller coaster. But I think I would pick Icebreaker. Pipeline, I haven't gotten a chance to do Pipeline yet. So I'm not including it in my ratings just yet. But I think Icebreaker is a cool. It's something very different. You're not going to get that at any of the other parks that are around.
Yeah, and they removed those annoying restraints, the restraints that were on it. They used to have like they were like loose leather straps that went over your shoulders, and it's a much more pleasant ride without that. Now it's just a lap bar, and I mean, it's not that intense of a roller coaster. You don't need to be like belted in. So just the lap bar alone is good enough, and it's a much better ride with that.
Yeah, those that's one of the most difficult ride vehicles to get into though, and out of,
Yeah, those seats
just
are
because of
very
the
close
way.
to each
Yeah,
other.
yeah, it's very narrow and the way that you kind of have to maneuver into it. So if you are someone who just like I wouldn't take my dad on this ride just because it would be difficult for him to get in and out because it's so narrow in there. But
Yeah.
anyway, dad, if you're listening and you do want to go on the ride, I'll take you. But all right. So I think that's everything in SeaWorld, right?
Yep, that is everything. I think we talked about most of it. There's a couple roller coasters that aren't really too much worth mentioning. So we can move on to one of my most favorite parks, which is Busch Gardens, Tampa. Um, Kelly has not been here in a while, so I don't think you've ridden most or any of these roller coasters at this point. So I can go through them. And there's really two roller coasters that stand out to me here. Um, One is Montu, which is an inverted coaster. This is my second favorite inverted roller coaster I've ever been on. Ironically, the best one I've ever been on is in the other Busch Gardens in Virginia. Um, but Montu is a little bit older now at this point. It was opened in 1996, but it still rides like it's pretty new. Um, the lines, I've never really waited too long in line either. It's not like the new fun roller coaster that's there, but it still really does pack a punch. And I recommend anyone going to Busch Gardens to ride it. It is pretty great. Um, but that's not going to be my favorite roller coaster at this park. And the roller coaster that is going to be my favorite is, but my
Okay.
favorite is Iron Gwazi. So Iron
Oh, yeah.
Gwazi it used to be a racing roller coaster where there was two tracks and it was just called Gwazi at that point. Gwazi are types of snakes. And what they did is RMC, Rocky Mountain Construction, came in and they put iBox frames on it. So this is a wooden roller coaster that has a metal frame track on it. And this is my favorite roller coaster I've ever been on, period. So there's still a few RMCs I need to get on that I know will probably be a little bit better than this ride, but I think this is going to be firmly cemented in like my top 10 forever until like some crazy new rides come out. Um, you really don't brake on this ride, so the track is very intense. Kelly, you'd hate it. I think there's really only one like brake run that is used and not for emergencies, and that's like all the way at the end by the station. So you're pretty much going through this track full speed, There's a couple really great stalls and some inversions that are just typical RMC, and they're great. I don't think I can say enough good things about this roller coaster. Um, Definitely, if you are going to get here, try and either get their day pass. I forget what their day pass is called for the like the unlimited roller coaster visits.
Like their
The
express
line,
pass.
yeah, their version of that. The lines do get long on this ride, and rightfully so. It's the best roller coaster in Florida. It's the best roller coaster probably on the East Coast. Um, so the lines do get long here, but well worth it. Um, I went one morning for pass holder early hours, and I was able to ride it like 3 or 4 times before the rest of the park opened. Um, and yeah, I would definitely go again, and will continue to go again. And um, what a great ride!
Yeah, you keep trying to get me to go, and I feel like you don't know how to sell it for me because you're like, oh my gosh, the roller coasters are so great. And I'm like, tell me more about the safari.
There's a nice train that you can ride too.
Yeah. What drinks are there? That's more my speed. No, but we definitely have to go. We're pass holders for we kind of have like the whole
Yeah, we have
uh
the Platinum Pass at the SeaWorld parks, so we have access to all 7 of their theme parks and then their water parks as well with the Platinum Pass.
yeah, which we used when we went to Busch Gardens, Williamsburg.
Mhm.
And we did that last Christmas, which was really fun because they do, if you ever get a chance to go there, totally recommend it. It is such a beautiful park. And the roller coasters were awesome. I mean, I think there was a couple that were closed, but we got
Yeah,
to do majority of them.
yeah, I think that there was quite a few that were closed actually. Like
Oh, really?
the good big ones were closed because those they
Mm.
have to be at a warmer temperature to operate. 'Cause when we did go, it was pretty chilly. I think they were supposed to be more open, but they ended up closing some of them, and like even Apollo's Chariot, which was the first one we went on, closed shortly
Hmm.
after we went on it. But I was really excited to ride Pantheon, which is that multi-launch coaster there, which um, wonder why SeaWorld built Icebreaker when they could build a ride like that. So.
I like Icebreaker. Yeah, so awesome. Well, I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but putting you on the spot, what's the best overall in across all the different parks that we talked about? I know what your answer is already, but
Oh, it's Iron Gwazi without a doubt. I mean, like, this is the best roller coaster I've been on. Um, and it's probably a little bit closer than I'm making it seem. Velocicoaster is a really good ride, and you will not be disappointed if you like roller coasters and you go on it. But Iron Gwazi has it beat by like a small margin. If I were to rate them, I think that I would give Iron Gwazi like a 9.5 and Velocicoaster like a 9.4. It's very close, but Iron
mm,
Gwazi does have it by a little bit.
yeah. Well, I think my ratings would be very different, clearly. But I would say Everest. I think Everest wins out for me. It's a good roller coaster, great theming, and it's got the thrill. So,
Yeah, I've got Everest about fourth from the Florida parks. So I've got um, Iron Gwazi, Velocicoaster, Montu, which you've also never been on at Busch Gardens, and then Everest.
okay, so you're doing two at Busch Gardens then.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, I
roller
was like,
coaster
oh
park.
wow, yeah. I was gonna say you rated Disney at the lowest of the four that we talked about. We didn't even put SeaWorld in there, so which I'm surprised.
They're good roller coasters. They're solid roller coasters, but they're not anything like over the top. They're not going to be the super intense ones. They're going to be more um like kind of tame. Maybe Mako is the exception to that. Mako is definitely intense, but that's just like a pretty standard hybrid coaster. So if you a
Hmm.
hyper coaster, so if you like hyper coasters, it's a great ride, has a lot of re-rideability, but um, not something to like make a destination over, I would say.
Yeah, I would say that the thing that I like so much about SeaWorld though is that there's really something that um like you can go in and with a multi-generational family and everyone is going to enjoy an aspect of it. because you do have the aquariums, you have a lot of shows, things like that, that don't, if you have little ones, there's the Sesame Place area. So it's just nice because there's a lot to do for little ones, families that don't, ride roller coasters, but then you also have those thrill rides. So I think they have a really good balance of that.
Yeah,
But
well,
yeah,
and they're putting in, like, again, Penguin Trek is going to be more of a family coaster, so that might be, if that's if you're thinking about having a kid go on their first roller coaster, that might be a good one. Um, it doesn't seem like it's going to be overly intense. It's going to be like pretty low to the ground. So they're like the height element. I know a lot of kids are afraid of heights, so this isn't going to go crazy high either. So definitely a good addition to the park.
yeah, yeah, it'll be cool to see when that one opens. And like you said, when Epic Universe opens. So, um, but tell us about all the roller coasters that you're going to be trying to get on this summer because you have a ton lined up.
Yeah, so my company closes the week of 4th of July, so this will be the second year I'm trying to go on like a little roller coaster trip. I still am not entirely sure. I'm probably going to do some Cedar Fair parks. So I might go to Cedar Point, potentially Toronto's Wonderland, and then there's a couple other parks like scattered in between to see what else works. Trying to hit as many roller coasters as I can in like those 3 or 4 days.
Nice. And then we are going out to California in August. So I'll be at D23 and you are going to take those days and you're going to do some of the other parks.
Mhm.
So which ones have you decided on?
So on that trip, it'll be Knott's Berry Farm, which is relatively close to Disney, then Universal, and then a little bit further out is Six Flags. So I'm really excited to go to Six Flags. That looks like an amazing park, and honestly, every roller coaster fan's dream. There's so many rides there, and there's like a good variety of different types of roller coasters. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, so this is like our perfect trip. Well, unless we were spending it together. We love spending it together. But I get to do the Disney stuff and you get to do the roller coaster stuff. So, and then we get to come together at night and have a good dinner. So it'll be
Yeah.
perfect. Awesome. All right. Well, any other thoughts that you have before we close out the episode?
Not really, but if you have a differing opinion than me on Hagrid's, please let me know. Happy to tell you why I think that the theming is not great. I could literally talk about that for a half an hour, but I won't bore you with that unless you want me to. Um, yeah, I wish that they did the same level of theming that they did in Escape from Gringotts in Hagrid's.
Yes, we will not go down that route. But I was going to say, if anyone is listening and they have other thoughts about what their favorites are or why they agree or disagree with us, please comment. I would love to hear what your thoughts are. And I would like to see, are people more on the Pat side of it's all about the thrill? Or are you more on my side, aka the right side? It's about the mix of the theming and everything. So, let us know below. But thank you all so much for watching. If you came on board this time, thank you for coming and listening to us for the first time. If you're not subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the notifications, comment below. And if you're looking to plan your next trip, be sure to reach out to KMV Travel. We offer complimentary assistance with all of the different theme parks that we talked about today: Walt Disney World, Universal, SeaWorld, and Busch Gardens, as well as cruises and some other destinations. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon.